So it's another week and another big screen comic book film has been released. Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. Sonya, your thoughts?
Well, look, I was a big fan of the original Sin City film and of the comics. I was really excited to come and see Dame to Kill For. I really enjoyed it. I did enjoy while I was sitting there watching it, but I feel like too much time has passed since Sin City. That's hard to say.
Yeah.
And so I felt like it was a little bit dated. My biggest problem was actually the pace of the film. In some parts it was really lagging and it was really slow, and other parts it was kind of juddering across, and you were never quite sure what was going.
Well, because it kind of starts
It
at
starts
full
in a big
acceleration,
boom,
doesn't it?
yeah.
With Marv stabbing a bunch of college kids.
Exactly.
And then, and then
never
just
gonna-
slows right down again
Yeah.
after that, and that's not a place
So
to
you're
start,
feeling
really.
you kind of motion sick with the pacing of the film. I thought the Dame to Kill For story was actually really very good. That was probably my favourite of the stories that were in this one. The other two, they were fine, but they didn't do anything for me. This is my biggest thing with Dame to Kill For, is that it didn't do anything for me. It was like, I've seen this formula, I've seen these characters. What's next?
Give me something.
Give me a little bit more. The violence as well. I like a good violent film whenever.
yeah.
But the violence in this was done so much, and it was so over the top. Every scene, something awful was happening to somebody else, that within 20 minutes, I was over it.
Well, with
and
how it
had
started,
no
it felt like they were
impact.
making a point of it.
Exactly.
They were just going bigger, badder, bloodier.
Yeah.
But-
and then that's great, but expect your audience to kind of give up after
Tune out
a
a bit,
while and
yeah.
tune out.
You become desensitized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a great scene in there with Miho, who's one of my favourite characters, that by the time I got to that scene, I was a bit kind of, people stabbing things, I don't care anymore. And then there's Eva Green, who's beautiful, and I love her as an actress, but I really feel like she was phoning this in.
Yeah.
Ava in the comics is amazing. She is a beautiful femme fatale with
The
that
ultimate femme
energy,
fatale,
the
really,
ultimate,
yeah.
the energy, the fragility and the brittleness and the fluidity of a femme fatale. She's got it. Eva didn't, which is really sad. She looked the part, but there was just nothing there.
There didn't seem to be much depth to what she was doing. It was
No.
like, now I'm being evil, now
Yeah.
I'm being vulnerable.
Exactly.
And it was very put on. It was you were aware that she was doing it.
She was doing it. I tell you
she
what, the
seemed to
highlight
waver
though,
a fair bit.
the
Yeah.
highlight of this film for me was Christopher Maloney. I thought he was fantastic
Yeah.
as Mort. It was just perfect for me.
He did even look like
He
the
even
character in
looked
the
like
book,
him.
didn't he? It was-
Although
yeah.
it is, I always find it funny when I'm watching Christopher Maloney on set, because I just think he's
Law and
Elliot.
Order, yeah.
Elliot, what are you doing? But
Captain Cragen's not
he's
going to
not
be
going to
happy
be
with
happy.
you.
But yeah, so overall, yes, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't everything that I really wanted it to be.
Al?
Right, okay, well look, again, huge fan of the original, loved the first Sin City, and you can't help but compare it. I mean, it's the sequel, it's been a long time, but you got to compare it.
Gotta compare.
And it definitely comes off second best to a pretty broad degree. Most of my problems with this were structural. Just how the movie was put together didn't really work for me. You look at the first one, it's got 3 separate stories, 4 if you count the prologue,
Yep.
and they're very solid stories that feed into each other. You've got the Hardigan storyline that bookends the movie, and it's structured so perfectly. You've even got the assassin guy coming in at the end just to further bookmark it, or bookend it rather, and it all just works together. This one, not so much.
No.
I mean, you've got the Dame to Kill For storyline, which works very well. They're really true to the original. There's so many frames that you're just like, yes, that's exactly, just the curve of her body is exactly like it was.
Yeah.
How she looks like she's cupping the moon in that one shot.
That was a good shot.
Exactly like it is in the comic. But then you've got the other 2 storylines, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's and Jessica Alba's, and they're a bit of a non-starter, both of them. There's nothing... I mean, you look at the original, they're textured, layered storylines that have a lot going on. And then you look at this one, you've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and not to spoiler, but he plays a game of poker, he gets beat up, he plays another game of poker. That's all that happens in his storyline. And then you end with Jessica Alba. Look, I'm sure she's a lovely woman, but she's not much of an actor. She's very attractive, and watching her dance... great.
A lot.
I'm on board with that. That's sort of like half of her screen time was that.
Yeah.
But then you got her sort of going a bit nuts and cutting on herself, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You don't feel any impact. So that didn't work for me. I felt there were techniques that were used in the first film that were used badly in this one. Things like the colorization aspect. They just seem to be doing that at random. You know, the twins show up, and Goldie and Wendy, and Goldie is in color like she was in the first film, but it was in the first film because that's how Marv saw her. So doing that in this one makes
Made
no sense.
If Marv's not in the room,
He's in love with her. Therefore that's why she's colored, and that was symptomatic of the whole film. You know, they just didn't seem to be connecting with why things were happening. And although there was a lot of things that I loved about it, overall it was a disappointment. It was a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Well, look, I wasn't really sure what audience it was meant for. I felt sometimes it was a bit like a computer game, and sometimes it was an animation, and sometimes it was an actual film where they were trying to do something, really interesting stylistically. As I said, trying to match that comic book frame by frame was, I think, was interrupted by the 3D aspect a little bit.
3D was a
with the
mistake for this, I
3D.
think. Because this is supposed to be, we want to see a moving comic book. That's the whole point. And this sort of went, oh no, now it's, that doesn't work.
Then you're looking at a character with the backdrop, sort of almost the green screen, and just thinking, it's not connected. That
cars just look like Matchbox cars being pushed along.
Exactly. And I thought it was a bit one note. The narration through all the stories was a bit, now this happens, and this
city will keep chewing you up and
terrible
spitting you
city.
out.
By the way, it's a sin city. It's really bad.
A city of
so
sin.
much stuff is bad. In
Everybody
case you
hates
don't
us.
know, Sin City is a bad place.
We
for
know.
Sin. Sinful
And it's a city,
place.
by the way, also.
Yes.
With sin.
Yes, that's right. So it's
You
a
get the
pretty
point.
bad place.
Yeah.
What about, is it going to invite new readers to the comic book? Because there's a lot of fans of this comic. This is
there
a
are
pretty
a
decent
lot of fans. Yeah, this
comic.
is a big deal. Sin City is a big deal, and
Yeah.
I don't feel like this film will get any new readers coming to it.
Right.
I feel like they might, if they saw this but they hadn't seen the first one, it'll get people to go back to the first one, and then the first one will get them to come to the comics. But I think as a standalone film, no, I don't think it inspires that kind of feeling.
No,
Al?
I tend to agree. Yeah, it might lead, as you say, it might lead people back to the first one, which will lead to the comics. I think the only thing that might get people to the comics specifically from this second one is that they'll go, oh, there's comics with this much nudity? And there's actually more. Nancy gets
More.
completely kid off
Yeah.
in the comics.
She does.
So, maybe if that's your thing,
Watch
check
out for
that out.
that.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, one-word answers. Will it keep fans happy?
No.
No.
No, I don't think so either. And was she a dame to kill for?
It's a good question.
It is a good question. No, I look, not to kill for.
No?
No, I think Ava in the comics, definitely. Eva Green as Ava, maybe a swift kick to the dangles, but that's about it, really.
Okay. Hell.
Okay, well, that's quite a vivid image. Look, maybe I cut someone up a bit.
Right.
She's a dame to maim for.
Right.
But I wouldn't go so far as to actually kill. At least
All right.
as she is in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, no. She's not dame to kill for,
How far would you go?
I'd be eating a sandwich across the road. That's how far.
Would you at least say a crossword or something?
No, I'd do a crossword while I'm eating the sandwich across the road, but
She's a
no.
dame to eat a sandwich for.
Yeah, whilst doing a
Well,
crossword.
that's a long title.
Yeah, we put it in a subtitle or something.
Yeah, just
That's
brackets.
what we thought, and leave us your comments as to what you thought of the film.